This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Subscribe to the podcast Beyond Politics. They host some of the biggest names and smartest minds. Beyond Politics is from a former Democratic congressman who helped ignite Barack Obama's campaign and a former campaign manager and political columnist. They go beyond the usual chatter on politics, news, science, and books. It's politics and everything beyond. On Beyond Politics, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and at night on 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Thursday. Good to have you with us today. Matt Patrick here. Coming up here a little bit later on, Matt Matthews tickets coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. The comedian coming into Minneapolis here in January. We'll have tickets before you can buy them. I have 2 pairs of tickets to give away today. Also, Karla Bigham is going to join us, this former DFL state senator, current Washington County commissioner. We're going to chat with her a little bit about the primary in Minnesota. That's coming up in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Patrick, how are we today?
Not doing too bad. How was your day so far?
I'm doing well, although so my tomato plants, I got my tomato plants, tons of big tomatoes. My cherry tomatoes, I've pretty much burned out. I don't know if I ate them too quickly. Gosh, they were delicious. This is one of the best parts about summer is just the fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. I grow my tomatoes. I love them. Gotten a ton so far this year, but I think the cherry tomatoes might be done. So I might have to go back to those inferior store-bought ones. They're not the same. I hope your problems are that little or better today. How about I say it like that? I want to start off today with talking about a new friend I have. Oh, boy, oh, boy. So in case you missed it, and I talked about this before, I have been dealing in Minnesota here, where Minneapolis, St. Paul is located, we have a Senate race here. Amy Klobuchar is running for re-election. And the Republican Party of Minnesota, for some inexplicable reason, decided to... Well, I can understand why they did. I mean, it was Steve Bannon put this guy on the map in Minnesota as his choice to be the candidate for the Republicans to take on Amy Klobuchar for Senate. He is an absolute, and I will say this, absolute horrific candidate. He has a long history of misogynistic, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBTQIA comments on social media that clearly no one vetted the guy. He has had a bit of a sketchy past, to say the least. I mean, they had a big hubbub that you saw earlier this year that broke out because of apparently money that was campaign money that somehow got spent at a strip club in Miami. Because who doesn't love, strip club appetizer bars? Oh, yes, that's why we all go to strip clubs. Well, I don't go, but still, Anyway, that's apparently been cleared up. There's just some confusion on who was spending the money at the strip club. Anyway, I mean, it's like I said, this is a guy who is, he's MAGA for MAGA's sake. He's this hyper aggressive alpha male dude kind of thing, that goes on out there. And it is a bad sign for the Republican Party. Don't get me wrong. I understand that in Minnesota, at least, that when you take on a popular senator, that you really can't, you're not going to get the cream of the crop running out there to go get beaten. And Amy Klobuchar was always going to be a difficult senator to knock off in a general election. I get that. I understand that. But yet the negatives on Royce White are unbelievable. And yet not only did he win the convention endorsement, which surprised a lot of people, But on primary day on Tuesday, funny story, he actually won the Republican vote in the state. Barely, I think it was, 38% of the Republican Party endorsed him, but it was enough to win the Republican nomination. And as I've said multiple times to the Democrats in this state, just put his social media posts on billboards across the state. Mission accomplished. And I do think that there is a legit chance. I think it's fringe. It's fringe. But I do think that there's a legit chance that Amy Klobuchar could win this Senate race 75-25. I'm not joking. He is that bad of a candidate. I made a post yesterday. It got well over, I think it's like 1,700 likes on it so far, which is, generally pretty good. This is by far the worst candidate I've ever seen. 20 years ago, this guy's social media would have gotten him kicked out of the party. Today, they endorsed him because hate and anger are virtues for the GOP. It's amazing how far the Minnesota GOP, Republican Party of Minnesota, has fallen. That's what I posted. And funny story, last night, as I was snuggling up to bed, I got a response. Now, I want to stop and just point out, I'm the first person to say, this is the weirdest thing ever. This is the actual Republican candidate for senator in the state of Minnesota. This is the guy who's running right now. It's not like a few years ago. He's running right now. And he decided to become a Twitter troll, and a lame Twitter troll at that, because I got this response from my new BFF, Royce White. You're a commie. Yes, more, Royce. Please don't stop. This is a hoot, man. This is a hoot. Now, first of all, okay. Clearly, you don't understand the basics of, politics at all. I don't think that if I sat Royce White down and had him explain the differences between, say, Republicans, Democrats, totalitarianism, fascism, a corporatocracy, socialism, liberalism, communism, Marxism. I don't think the guy knows the basic difference between any of that. The fact that he's called commie like it's 1983, that's kind of lame. He just doesn't understand the basic differences. But, it just is, don't stop, dude. I'm going to still rail against you. This is called trolling, dude, because the more you embarrass yourself, the better it is for the Democrats this election cycle. So, and I'm not running for office, dude. I'm just a trained chimp here in a studio talking. That's all I'm doing. So you as the Republican candidate for senator taking on Amy Klobuchar, you want to get into a Twitter spat with me? Okay. It's public, Good for you. I will say it does bring up an interesting point in regards to what happened after that. Because clearly the MAGA Twitter trolls got activated. And I woke up this morning to a cornucopia of stupid posts from alpha male dude who is coming after me. Now, first of all, let me say from the bottom of my heart, losers. Seriously. Wow. That being said, seriously, losers. Seriously. That being said, I am now, just for the, get your checklist out here. I am now a commie. I am the P word, which, by the way, I think that's how the NBA refers to Royce White. Oh! Boom! In the breadbasket. Thank you very much. We're trolling. Anyway, I'm the P word. I'm a cuck. Yeah! I've been that before, though. And now, in my personal favorite, soy boy. Okay. Whatever, man. let me explain something to you far-right MAGA guys that are out there that are we're angry. You are the lamest revolution of all time, because you're not really having a revolution because you've been mistreated by the world. You are 1,000 pounds of bad choices, bad decisions, and an inability to look at yourself and realize you're the problem in your own life. That has created your disdain. Trump was smart enough to realize I could play you fools. He could play you fools like a fiddle, and you does, because he just basically had to say, you're not the loser, they're the loser, and you guys ran along with him real quick. We have had in the history of this world plenty of revolutions and overthrows of government and, angry people hitting the streets. But in many of those other cases, it was because of real problems, like people actually starving to death, as opposed to you being frustrated because the girl you had a crush on decided to get married to somebody else, and now they have 3 kids, and you can see them on Facebook, and it makes you angry because you wish you could have gone back there, and why didn't she love me, blah, 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 blah. Because no one wants to follow you for that. When people are starving, that's when people, hit the streets. No one's going to follow you because you've got regrets. When revolutions have happened in the past, it's the governments have taken all your money. And as much as you guys want to play that out, your big problem is after spending thousands of dollars on 15 Trump flags, you have the audacity to look around saying, I don't have any spending money. No, you got tons of spending money. You just buy stupid things. But that's why you want to revolt, is because you're really bad with your money, not as opposed to any real injustice. You want to sit there and act as if, it's some great injustice, like in actual revolutions where, say, people get locked up and they throw away the key. They're going to round people up and put them into work camps. You think that that's what your problem is. What your problem is you were drunk at work and you got fired, and that manager already had it in for me. That's on you, dude. No one wants to revolt because you are a drunk guy at work. Or, some real despot tries to kill all the people that they don't like, and you're basically upset because one day you had a firework and it went off by your ear and it blew up, and now I got medical bills because I was drunk and stupid that day, and why am I cursed? Like I said, you are the dumbest revolution of all time. You are not freedom fighters. You're just sad, pathetic people. And this is why you'll fail and fail miserably. It's because no one is inspired by you. We all feel like you're pathetic. And so that is what you are. And that is what Trump is. So good luck with all that. No, seriously, good luck with all that. All my best, signed, Soy Boy. We'll take a break. Come on back. It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. It is the Matt McNeil Show. By the way, I have no idea how the NBA thinks of Royce White. I have no idea. I'm taking a guess. I have no idea. That's up to, maybe we should ask them. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Speaking of sports, though, I want to stay in this because, okay, so if you were like me and you were stuck watching the Olympics and you just loved it, I loved it. There kept this moment going, so when are they doing this breakdancing thing? And they did this breakdancing thing, and it was what it was. I think it ended up getting somewhat kind of lost because of an Australian competitor named Rachel Gunn, or as she refers to herself, Ray Gunn. If you didn't see it, she was atrocious. I mean, it was a joke. It would be like someone who'd never played ping pong on a table tennis team at the Olympics, or somebody who had never run a race in their life trying to run, in the 100-meter dash. It was, clearly somebody. There came this question of how did this happen? How did this person get there? Especially when it came to light afterwards, and this is after the Olympics. I think it was like Monday or Tuesday this week. You saw videos from the breakdancers who didn't make the team from Australia, and they were pretty good at what they were doing. Reagan is in the news now. Us Weekly has reported that thousands of people have signed a Change.org petition accusing the Australian breakdancer as well as the Australian Olympic Committee's Anna Meares of unethical behavior. In a letter addressed to the Prime Minister of Australia and the Australian Olympic Committee, Reagan, otherwise known as Rachel Gunn, is accused by critics of manipulating the Olympics selection process to her own advantage by setting up her own governing body for breakdancing and overlooking other qualified breakdancers. The letter also includes unverified claims that Reagan denied funding to a group of incredibly talented and underprivileged youth and alleges that Reagan defeated phenomenal breakdancers to win her own qualifier. Which, something is wrong here. She clearly did not deserve to be out competing. She was a joke. And as a matter of fact, there's a picture, if you haven't seen it, of the judges kind of looking at her while she's performing like, what are you doing? Signatories of the petition are calling for a full investigation, a public apology from Reagan and Meares for attempting to gaslight the public and undermining the efforts of genuine athletes, and a global public apology for the breaking community for the unethical behavior that has tainted the sport. The letter ends with, Australia must do better by its athletes and ensure that the principles of fairness, transparency, and integrity are upheld in all aspects of the Olympic selection. So far, it doesn't seem as though Reagan or Meares has responded, but Reagan defended her performance during a press conference on August 10th, saying, I was never going to beat these girls on what they do best, their power moves. What I bring is creativity. All my moves are original. Creativity is real important to me. I go out there, I show my artistry. Sometimes it speaks to the judges, and sometimes it doesn't. I do my thing, and it represents art. That's what it's all about. Now, it should be noted that that's not what she is there for, and she should have known that, because it's a little bit like, like the skateboarding, and the skateboarding thing. There are certain things you can do to get points, and you just going up there and doing a John Travolta dance routine, that's not breakdancing. You need to do established moves to get points. It's like gymnastics to a point. And I don't think breakdancing is going to come back. This was a one-time thing in Paris. They're welcome to it. I think they'll probably, I'm hoping they bring baseball back for the 2028 Olympics. I hope that's the case. And it'd be nice to see softball. But, it is an interesting argument that she's making, because the argument is moot. You don't go to the ski hill for the Winter Olympics with a toboggan and say, well, I'm going down on the sled because I'm thinking outside the box. No, you're not doing the sport. Now, on top of this, there are a lot of people within the black community who are pretty upset with her, the white girl from Australia, who made a mockery of breakdancing. If you know anything about the history of breakdancing and hip-hop, then these artistic expressions were forms of resistance. They are a way for marginalized youth to escape oppression, to claim space and identity in a racist culture, then rendered them invisible or as a public menaces and economic burdens driving up the national debt. News reports often portrayed breakdancing as dangerous, associated with gang violence and urban decay. I remember this. It was the early 80s. I remember how they tried to portray breakdancing as some sort of, the kids are going to get that crack and it's going to be breakdancing. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how dancing works. It's like Reagan. Schools banned the practice, and cops often harassed black girls and boys, viewing them as engaging in public nuisances. What's truly ironic is that Rachel Gunn truly studied the history. She would have known better than to get on that stage and make a fool of herself. As a Ph.D. holder in cultural studies with a particular focus on breakdancing, she's someone who has theoretically immersed herself in the understanding of the history, significance, and cultural context of the art form. You would think. In her own words, she says, I was starting to learn breaking at the same time. What became prominent was that there were these gender politics that could be explored and analyzed. There were changes I was undergoing as I was learning breaking, the changes in how people respond to me, and maybe tried to police what I was doing. Given this awareness, how could she not recognize her actions as blatant cultural appropriation? If she had genuinely studied the history and origins of breakdancing, how she could take the stage in such an inauthentic and disrespectful manner. And you want to know the truth is, that's actually a legit point. You know, there's a difference. There is a difference between hearing. I love the blues. I do. I love the blues music. I've enjoyed it more and more in the last, say, 15 years. I've become a bigger fan of it. And there is a difference between someone like Slash from Guns N' Roses has come on out. I think he just put out a blues album, and it sounds like his guitar, but he's definitely doing blues riffs. It's respecting the blues, taking it in a different direction by using his sound, but it's undeniable that he was like the Rolling Stones. I mean, the Rolling Stones put out a lot of great blues albums. The Keith Richards and stuff, they love the blues and stuff. You know, you get people that take their own style and apply it to the blues tradition. It's not taking blues and then playing heavy metal music and saying, well, that's blues. No, it's not. And, you know, by doing so, if you did something like that, you are being somewhat disrespectful to the generations of people from a wide spectrum of backgrounds who have cherished and preserved the legacy of the blues. You know, it just is, you know, I'm with this. I can kind of understand this because that was embarrassing. If I, not exactly a breakdancer, could watch the Australian ray gun just kind of try to, I don't know, wiggle her way through to try to get a medal at the Olympics and say, boy, that's embarrassing because that's nothing like it's supposed to be. Well, that's, there's something seriously wrong there. And, yeah, I mean, I'm buying it. And you want to know the truth is that there should be some higher standards. If you're going to have an experimental sport like that, well, you have to have some standards across the board. We'll take a break. Come on back. I got to talk about the drug savings we've got in this country. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Make 'em sing to this thing like a melody.
Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, in the afternoons on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, and overnights on 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We have to talk about what Joe Biden did today because this is huge. And it's something that was coming, and I can't tell you, it's stuff like this which, if there's anything that's going to wake up MAGA America and make them realize maybe, just maybe, the Republicans haven't been honest with them, and that after 50 years and their lives are a whole lot worse, that the real job of the Republicans is to stop the Democrats from trying to make their lives better. If anything's going to wake them up from their Republican fog in the red parts of this country, it's stuff like this. The Biden administration on Thursday released prices for the first 10 prescription drugs that were subject to landmark negotiations between drug makers and Medicare, a milestone in a controversial process that aims to make costly medications more affordable for older Americans. The government estimates that a new negotiated prices for the medications will lead to around $6 billion in net savings for the Medicare program in 2026 alone, and when they officially go into effect, or 22% of net savings overall. That is based on the estimated savings the prices would have produced if they are in effect in 2023, a senior administration official told reporters on Wednesday. The Biden administration also expects the new prices to save Medicare enrollees $1.5 billion in out-of-pocket costs in 2026 alone. For so many people, being able to afford these drugs will mean the difference between debilitating illness and living full lives. The Chiquita Brooks LaSure, the administrator for the Centers for Medical and Medicaid Services, told reporters, these negotiated prices, they're not just about costs, they're about helping make sure that your father, your grandmother, or your loved one live longer, healthier. It comes one day before the second anniversary of President Joe Biden's signature Inflation Reduction Act, which gave Medicare the power to directly hash out drug prices with manufacturers for the first time in federal programs near a 60-year history, which, once again, is kind of a no-brainer because pretty much every other country does that. And when you talk about the free market, there is this mentality that the government somehow can't participate. No, the government should be able to participate in the free market. As a matter of fact, no one should be able to get a better price than the federal government because they're dealing in such large volume. Whether that's military people or it's Medicaid, Medicare, you should be able to negotiate. That's just the free market. And this idea that this country has been in the free market, but the idea that the federal government, who has the strongest argument out there to be able to use the free market and negotiate the better prices, is somehow the bad guys in this whole thing, is just disingenuous. There are plenty of pro-business countries on this planet that have drug price negotiations with the federal government. I mean, Canada, one of the reasons why people drive into Canada is because the Canadian government helps keep drug prices low. It is remarkable how much money we pay for the life-saving drugs when you compare that to what other countries have to pay. And one of the problems we've had, and this has been the Republicans and a handful of Democrats, Joe Manchin, you punk, this has been one of the things which has been the big argument is, no, Americans need to pay the $1,000 for the medication while the rest of the country pays, 25 cents a pill. And so, yeah, there is this is something that's needed to happen for a while. And as a person who got firsthand views of foreign health care when I was in the military in Germany, yeah, this is long overdue. Doesn't mean the Republicans are not going to try to undo it. And what they'll do is they'll undo it, and then they'll say, and you should feel bad that you tried to get cheap drugs. Why aren't you thinking of that drug manufacturer executive? They need a 14th vacation home. Why are you denying them their 14th vacation home? You're so selfish. That sort of thing. That's the Republican Party and scene. Here are the drugs, and I'll probably screw up the names. Eliquis, made by Bristol Myers Squibb, is used to prevent blood clotting to reduce the risk of stroke. Jardiance, Jardiance, made by somebody, and Eli Lilly. It's used to lower blood sugar for people with type 2 diabetes. By the way, I saw TV's Frank from Mystery Science Theater 3000. He already praised us because that's a medication he uses, so I'm glad you're going to get a break on that, sir. Xarelto, Xarelto, made by Johnson & Johnson, is used to prevent blood clotting to reduce the risk of stroke. Januvia by Merck is used to lower blood sugar for people with type 2 diabetes. Farxiga, Farxiga, made by AstraZeneca, used to treat type 2 diabetes, heart failure, and chronic kidney disease. Entresto, made by Novartis, is used to treat certain types of heart failure. Enbrel, made by Amgen, is used to treat autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. Imbruvica, made by AbbVie and Johnson & Johnson, is used to treat different types of blood cancers. Stelara, made by Janssen, is used to treat autoimmune diseases such as Crohn's disease. And Fiasp and Novolog are insulins made by Novo Nordisk. So those are the ones that have been out there. And trust me when I say this, even with these negotiated prices, these guys are making money on this. As a matter of fact, they now have all these companies that are doing this now have a solid foundation where they know that their bottom line is covered. By the way, just a quick side note. The two things that seem to pop up in there is stuff that had to do with diabetes and stuff that had to do with autoimmune disease. And it tells you, I think, that those are two problems that are growing in this country, and these costs will help people as we deal with these near epidemic levels of these things, be able to cover that cost, including the federal government. So once again, good stuff around. Because we're going to talk about how much money we're going to save here. Thanks, Joe Biden. In a statement on Thursday, Biden called the newly negotiated prices a historic milestone made possible because of the Inflation Reduction Act. He specifically touted Vice President Kamala Harris' tie-breaking vote on the law in the Senate in 2022. Harris, the Democratic presidential nominee, said in a statement that she was proud to cast the deciding vote, adding there is more work to be done to lower health care costs for Americans. So, people ask me why I love Joe Biden. You need to go back and look at that Inflation Reduction Act and realize all the good things that happened there. This is one of those things where there are undoubtedly a lot of mega guys who get those medications through Medicaid, Medicare, who are going to save money. And I have no doubt as they see these prices, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to go over the prices. I'll do that. I'll do that right now. Let's go over the prices right now, and you'll understand kind of where I'm going with this. This is for a 30-day supply. For all of these drugs, this is a 30-day supply. Prices for the first 10 drugs in the Medicare negotiation. Januvia, Januvia for Merck. The list price is $527 for 30-day supply. It's now going to be $113, the negotiated price. Unbelievable. This is the amount of Medicare Part D enrollees using the drug. 843,000 people. 843,000 people just got basically an 80% discount on this one drug. Unbelievable. Fiasp and Novolog, those are the insulins. The 30-day supply price, $495. Now $119, a 76% reduction. That's for 785,000 people in this country. Farxiga, Farxiga, the price was $556. Is the list price. The negotiated price is $178.50. It's a 68% reduction. That's for 994,000 people in the country that are using it this year. That's a 30-day supply, and it's basically going to be near 70% cheaper. Enbrel. I'm not sure exactly what this one deals with once again, but the list price for a 30-day supply of this medication is $7,106. The new negotiated price is $2,355, a 67% reduction for 48,000 people in America. There is 48,000 people in America that are saying thank you so very much to Joe Biden right now. Jardiance. This is a $573 list price drug. It's now priced at $197. It's a 66% reduction. 1.9 million people use that drug and now are going to get basically 2/3 off the price. Stelara. The 30-day supply of Stelara is $13,836. The new negotiated price is 2/3 less, basically, $4,695, as opposed to over almost $14,000 for a 30-day supply. 23,000 Americans getting that benefit. Xarelto, it's a $517 drug for a 30-day supply. It's now going to be $197, a 62% decrease. 1.3 million people getting a major cost advantage there. Eliquis goes from $521 retail down to $231 negotiated, a 56% reduction for 3.9 million people. Entresto, This goes from $628 down to $295. It's a 53% reduction. That helps out 664,000 people. Imbrevica, this is once again, a 30-day supply is $14,934. It's now going to be $9,319. It's a 38% price reduction for 17,000 Americans who use that drug. Now, those people that use these drugs are not all loony lefties. These are not diseases or illnesses that only affect Democrats, progressives, liberals. There's a lot of Republicans who all of a sudden don't have to look at a unbelievably high price on drugs. Say, I don't know, $13,836 per month for their drugs, and now we're looking at a $4,695. That is fighting inflation. And once again, it wasn't inflation. If companies are making record profits, it's not inflation. That's just good old-fashioned greed. But they blamed inflation so that Republican voters would go scream, Joe Biden! Well, they were robbing you blind. But that being said, here's Joe Biden helping out a lot of people. A lot of people. And I guarantee you, one of the first things the Republicans will do if they take back over is get rid of all these price decreases and probably, if you did get any benefit, make you pay it back. Because we can't be robbing the corporate executives of their profit margins. That's communism, soy boy. Is it? It's not actually. This is called compassion. And by the way, for all you MAGA nutbags out there that love your Christian values, this is Christian values. Not telling somebody you have to go broke if you want to live. This is the beginning. Hopefully, this is something that will continue. And once we see the benefit of the corporation makes money, people get the medication, we're not bankrupting ourselves as a society, maybe, just maybe, other medications and other drugs will be included in on this. But thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Kamala Harris. This is what Democrats deliver when you put them in charge. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Matt McNeil Show. Good to have you with me today. 952-946-6205. Sad news from the world of Hollywood. Gena Rowlands. If you have not seen Gena Rowlands, of course, recognizable actress. We've seen her in a lot of different roles over the years, but I want to take a moment here to talk about how amazingly, stunningly beautiful she's always been. You go back to those days when she first broke into Hollywood out of Madison, Wisconsin, of all places. I did not know that. She was born in Madison. I don't know if she was a Badgers fan. Maybe she was for her entire career. Who knows? But you go look at when she broke into Hollywood, there are fewer starlets who look as unbelievably beautiful as Gena Rowlands did. She was stunning and a heck of an actor. And I'm going to give you one role in particular, which I think is a very important role in regards to history and how movies change. But a little background here. She died on Wednesday at the age of 94. Born Virginia Catherine Rowlands in Madison, Wisconsin, June 19th, 1930. Acted in theater, TV, and film, including multiple projects with her first husband, John Cassavetes. In the 1960s, Rowlands worked as a working relation with Cassavetes. Over the course of 20 years, the pair made 10 films together. A Child is Waiting, Faces, Machine Gun McCain, Minnie and Mikowski, A Woman Under the Influence, 2-Minute Warning, Opening Night, Gloria, Tempest, and Love Streams. Now, Rowlands received the Best Actress nomination for an Oscar for A Woman Under the Influence and Gloria. She won the Golden Globe for Best Actress for A Woman Under the Influence. And actually, one of those roles that's kind of not talked about a lot. And I'm one of these guys that loves the Criterion and Turner Classic Movies, stuff like that. If you ever catch that, A Woman Under the Influence, Peter Falk's in that movie with her. a real tour de force by Gena Rowlands. Loved her in that movie. But it's Gloria I want to point out, because if you don't know, if you've never seen the movie Gloria, this is what, 1980 was that one? Yeah, 1980. She played a woman kind of thrust into a position of defending a child against the mob, and became this. I mean, we had seen this with Dirty Harry. We've seen this with some of the kind of the drive-in movie fodder of the 70s. But this was Gena Rowlands, a real top-notch actress, taking on the role of Gloria. She, like I said, she got nominated for an Oscar for this. And if not for her as her tough-as-nails character, Gloria, there wouldn't be stuff like Sigourney Weaver a few years later in Aliens as the tough guy taking on the alien creature. This was such a kind of a game-changing role, to where you had such a great actress take on, kind of the Charles Bronson Death Wish kind of role. It was, and she did it really well in regards to it. And the filmmakers did a good job of making it, defending the kid. Go see. Gloria is a good movie. Go see that one too. And yeah, an important role, because if not for her and the success she had with that, I don't know if you would have seen the female action star rise as quickly as you did. And so good stuff. Loved her. The Notebook. Most people know her for The Notebook now, because she plays the older version of the character in that one. So yeah, a very beloved actress. I will also mention there is something that's in pretty much every news channel today. 5 individuals have been charged in connection with the 2023 death of actor Matthew Perry, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The charges were announced on Thursday morning at a press conference in L.A. The defendants, who include 2 doctors, Perry's live-in personal assistant, and a person referred to by the authorities as the Ketamine Queen, are charged with distributing ketamine to Perry during the final weeks of the actor's life, according to a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office. U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada said the defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues. They knew what they were doing was wrong. 3 of the 5 defendants have reached a plea agreement. The beloved actor who starred as Chandler Bing on Friends died October 2023 at the age of 54. Perry was found floating face down in the pool in his Pacific Palisades home. The actor died as a result of acute effects of ketamine and subsequent drowning, according to the Los Angeles Medical Examiner's Office. Matthew Perry's journey began with unscrupulous doctors who abused their positions of trust because they saw him as a payday, to street dealers who gave him ketamine in unmarked vials. Every day, the DEA works tirelessly to their federal state. Man, that's their standard stuff. Estrada alleged the defendant, Dr. Salvador Plasencia of Santa Monica, California, worked with Dr. Mark Chavez to supply Perry with ketamine, which Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwasama, would inject the actor with despite having no medical training. Chavez, a 54-year-old doctor from San Diego, was agreed to plead guilty on 1 count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine, according to the release. Iwasama, a 59-year-old from Toluca Lake, California, pled guilty in August to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine, causing the death, and release said authorities allege that Iwasama also performed multiple injections on Perry on October 28th, the day that Perry died. Estrada said that over 2 months in September to October, Perry was distributed approximately 20 vials of ketamine. That cost him $55,000. The Placencia. All right, sorry. He was an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry. Estrada wrote, he wrote in a text message in September of 2023, I wonder how much money this moron will pay. He also stated in text messages he wanted to be Mr. Perry's sole source of supply. Perry had detailed the decades-long struggles with drug addiction in his 2022 memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. He wrote that he began abusing prescription medication after he was involved in a jet ski accident on the set of the film Fools Rush In 1997 and was prescribed Vicodin. According to his book, Perry eventually escalated to taking up to 55 pills per day, which resulted in his significant weight loss that was visible during time working on Friends. He noticed it was difficult to watch the physical transformation he went through during his time on the show. I got to tell you, I'm happy that they're doing this, because these drugs just don't appear. When Prince died, and I remember, for Chicago, Seattle, when Prince died here, this town basically just was weeping. I mean, it just was openly weeping. And they went after the doctors that were giving him the drugs. And I think that's a standard you need to make, because I mean, this is tragic. He was very good. He was very funny, and it's a sad thing that we've lost such a talented man so young. And it really is. I'm 55. I just can't believe he's gone already. So, Chicago, Seattle. We'll see you on a Friday. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Hour 2. That's coming up next. Hour number 2 of the show here on your Thursday. Good to have you with us today. Matt and Patrick here today. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Matt Matthews, by the way, I got 2 pairs today to give away of Matt Matthews tickets. He's bougie on a budget tour coming to the State Theater in January. The tickets go on sale tomorrow. You can win tickets today before you can even buy them. I got 2 pairs, so listen for your 2 times to call in and win today. Good luck with that. Well, primary day was Tuesday, and a lot kind of filtered through here. So to help me break down what what they think about what happened on Tuesday with the primaries and how is November shaping up, a former Democrat of the day, Karla Bigham, is kind enough to join us. She is a former DFL state senator, current Washington County commissioner, and kind enough today to join us to talk about politics. Hi, Karla.
Hey, Matt and Pat, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. By the way, and you and I can talk a little bit, because you said earlier this year you went out to Yosemite?
Oh, my gosh, yes. First time I had been out there, and it is one of the most gorgeous places, just breathtaking, and man, you're going to get your steps in, and you're going to feel that in your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves. I mean, if you're not bringing that BioFreeze and ibuprofen, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you just got to bring it all, because you're going to get a workout. It is gorgeous.
Did you do Vernal Falls? I hiked up to Vernal Falls. Did you do that one?
No, I did. I don't believe I went up to did that one, but we did a lot of just the flatter areas, because I'm only 5 feet tall, and so so it's like two steps to everybody else's one, and so it takes me a while to keep up to people. So I know my limits. But it was just unbelievable there, and it was busy. And then, did you see people climbing on the rock faces? And it's scary. I can't believe they can do that.
Well, they weren't doing
more power to them.
When we were there, it was actually kind of, people would say they would climb in the late evening or early morning because it was too hot during the day to be on the rocks. So, but what I did see is up on the Half Dome, you'd see people on top of Half Dome, and they look so tiny. You realize they're like, okay, that is nope. That's 1,000 pounds of nope for me. No, I definitely had the pain medication with me that day. All right. So speaking of pain medication, the Republican Party. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you watched the primary. You've watched how this is all set up. Let's start there. What is your thoughts on how the Republican Party is set up for November at this point?
I don't think. I mean, to have Donald Trump and Roy White be the top of the ticket is extremely problematic for them. There's just no doubt about it. I think to have, Harris, Walz, Klobuchar at the top of our ticket is amazing. To get nitty gritty and wonky if you want, I think the fact that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar won by 13% is really going to help, actually, that energy there in the 5th, which is a base congressional district for the Democrats, is going to help us statewide. Congresswoman McCollum didn't even have a primary, and look at her turnout there in the 4th. So you look at our 2 base congressional districts, and that was sky high, right?
Yeah.
And then let's just say, is there a bigger rock star in Minnesota than Senator Amy Klobuchar? Has never in her last 3 elections not had less than 20% difference between her and her opponent. So I just think, looking at those indicators, I think it's good. Now, those tails, and that, what I mean is, how are we going to help Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, right? And now the one and only Ann Johnson Stewart, who is a rock star in herself. I mean, I
Yes.
served with her. She was my neighbor on the Senate floor, neighbor next to me in offices in the Senate office building, who's in a special election out in Wayzata, the only seat up for the Senate. That's going to help. All of those indicators are going to help. So I think they're in good shape. We got to make sure that Democrats fill that whole ballot all the way down. That is my biggest fear, Matt. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That is my biggest fear.
Yeah. I want to go back. Let's break these down because you brought up a lot of individual points here. I want to kind of go through each one of them individually. Royce White, as you said, I mean, this is a crater left within the Republican Party. I mean, Neuberger was Neuberger, the guy that made racist jokes on the floor of the Minnesota Congress. You know, he was a bad choice. Royce White is just kind of hard to even comprehend how the Republican Party got themselves stuck with him. But, you know, this is, you know, am I just crazy? If you just put his social media posts up on billboards across the state, you're going to, even in districts which are maybe +4, +5 Republicans, do some real damage when it comes to November, just with his reputation and his legacy at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even want to talk about the stuff he has tweeted out and trolling. And you talk to very astute Republicans that are literally just true to their beliefs. And you can disagree with Republicans, and I do, and very respectful. You know, I am proud of my ability to work across the aisle, Matt. There's nothing wrong with that, to get things accomplished on behalf of the state of Minnesota, even if you disagree with them. People like Amy Klobuchar, like Angie Craig, Congresswoman Craig, really do have stellar records that way. Somebody like Roy White cannot do that. Mm-hmm. He cannot do that. And he has no place near the Capitol with what he has said about people. It's not okay. It is not okay. So my thought is that they probably will leave that blank. And I think that there's a lot of Republicans that will leave the Trump, bubble blank as well. Mm-hmm. And so that's, it's hard for them because they won't vote Democrat. And maybe some Republicans stay home, but they usually don't, right? That's just not something they do.
Well, and I was
say that.
I was up in 8 of the weekend and up in the range, and basically one of the things that was told me is that there's a lot of people up there that may have voted for Stauber in the past who are really excited about Walz being on the top of the ticket as the vice presidential nominee. And I think that you're right. It becomes a mess for you if you're the Republicans because you want to try to win back the House, but the two biggest, in Minnesota at least specifically, with Walz on the ticket, with Royce White as the Republican nominee, that whole task becomes a heck of a lot harder for them to basically try to win those seats.
And the energy on the top of our ticket is incredible. And that energy is going to transcend down, and that is the job for the next 80-plus days of Speaker Hortman and Ken Martin, our party chair. That is their job, right? And that's the job of every single candidate. And never, ever, ever underestimate Melissa Hortman. I've known her for 20 years. She's a dear friend of mine. We've traveled the world together. It's just never, ever, ever do it. And I'm telling you that she's going to motivate these candidates. She's strategic. She's stealthy when it comes to ads and just where, recruiting, timing. She is just not only a great legislator, but she's a great campaigner. Yeah. And so she knows I think it took her 3 times to get, into the House. And so then she's been there ever since, and she's worked her way up to the Speaker. She's going to fight every day between now and November 5th. She's going to motivate each of those candidates, and she's not going to rest. And I think she's going to – that's her job, and she knows that, and she's taking it seriously. And she's going to have a lot of tight races, as she said in an interview here yesterday. She knows the assignment, and she's going to turn that assignment in on November 5th.
Speaker Hortman's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Yeah. I remember the first time I interviewed her way back when, one of the original Democrats of the day, and I was just like, oh, yeah, you're going to be, you're phenomenal. Joining us right now, Karla Bigham is once again joining us, a former DFL state senator, currently a Washington County commissioner. Let's talk about, you brought up Ilhan Omar. my impression of that primary campaign against Don Samuels, this time she did it better. She had better ads. She had a better presence. I think she was just not expecting it to be the last election cycle to be as close as it was, and it kind of showed. This time, she really kind of went in there saying, yeah, I'm going to treat this as a real threat, and her campaign was better this time around in Minnesota 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right. She should have been nervous going into this because of how she campaigned last time. I think she just took it for granted, and she squeaked by, and now she didn't this time, and look, things change. No campaign and no election cycle is ever the same. And so things happen and occur that change the voters' minds, and you can't ever take anything for granted, and you got to work. And I think she did a little bit last time, and, well, let's just be honest. She didn't this time.
Yeah.
She spent the money. She did the work. And I'm not so certain that, I think in the end, this is going to translate into November. The energy will translate into November and benefit the whole ticket as far as the base and turning that out and some key races there down ballot. But, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar really turned it up for this election. She didn't take it for granted. And the results showed that. I mean, that was a pretty decisive win.
It was, and I think when you look at the two maps, the last election and this election, she did indeed solidify that base, and I think he agrees it's going to basically make a stronger ticket overall come November. I want to go to 8 as well, Stauber. Of all the numbers that I kind of was like, wow, that's interesting, is that he really wasn't leaps and bounds ahead of his Democratic opponent in the primary. As a matter of fact, their vote totals were somewhat similar. And this is a guy that has been Mr. Donald Trump up in the Minnesota 8. Stauber is a big Trump buddy. You got Royce White, as we have said. Is this a year that we feel as if that 8 definitely is back in play again and that could go back to the Democrats as it has been in the past?
I think the 8th is always a district that we work hard in. It's always a district. I mean, I look at my good friend, Senator Grant Houschild, who fits that district like a glove, and really, we fight in those districts hard because we are the party of Main Street, of labor, of working people, for families. And I think, you look at Jen Schultz and, somebody who has fought for that, her whole legislative career. And then, you look at just how that district, the demographics of that district, and that's what it is. So I think every 2 years, that's competitive. And so I think, it's, again, a district we're never going to stop fighting for. Mm-hmm. And they can't take for granted. It's flipped. It's not a district that anybody can sleep on.
Mm-hmm. And Stauber definitely seems his tone in that district has definitely changed. I think he knows that Walz is popular. Walz is popular on the range, and he knows.
And so is Klobuchar.
Yeah, exactly.
And remember, I just said 20 points. 20 points. She in her last 3 elections has not had a delta between her and her opponent of less than 20 points. I mean, 20. That's a lot of tails.
They called her election the last time at we counted it at 8:00. It was like 8:14. They called her election at 8:14 after the polls are closed. My guess is going to be as if they could possibly even do it before 8, they will. I don't think that's what I thought. It doesn't mean we take anything for granted or don't fight, but that's the case. Final question for you, Karla. Obviously, the big question then is the Republicans. They want to take back the Minnesota House. They need 4 seats. I've already made the comment since the redistricting map came on out. That map was not a good map for them. They need to have a superstar year to really have a chance at taking the House. I'm not seeing it. What do you see? Do you feel as if if everyone gets out there on the DFL side, works, door knocks, donates, volunteers, and votes come November, that it becomes, that the Republicans really have no chance of taking the Minnesota House?
It's work, and don't underestimate Speaker Hortman. I just think that it is the energy and the resources, I think it's a solid year for Democrats. It's theirs to lose, and I think that it's work. That's for the next 80-some days. That's all I can say.
Well, I think it becomes with Royce White and Trump going against walls on the top of the ticket.
Yep.
That becomes a much harder thing. And funny story.
Absolutely.
A funny story. I don't know if you've had anyone told you. Out in the east side where you're at, I've had the people say the Republicans are coming through and trying to basically sound like Democrats as they're door knocking out there. They're trying desperately because they know they're in trouble.
Yes, and I do think the moderation in the messaging is because of the ticket, the finalized ticket they seen coming. I mean, there's no doubt about that for sure. But nobody should sleep on anything. It's work. Don't count on them screwing up, and just get out there and do the work. Get on the doors and talk to your neighbors. Get them out to vote. Fill that whole ballot out. That's all you can do.
Karla Bigham. Karla, you're more than welcome back anytime, by all means. I really appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Matt.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you, Matt.
952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Let's give away a pair of tickets right now to Matt Matthews. The Bougie on a Budget Tour coming to the State Theater in January. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. You can win your tickets right now. A pair of tickets to caller number 5, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Caller number 5, you are going to win a pair of tickets to Matt Matthews. Good luck. Let's take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Patrick, who is our winner here? The first pair of tickets today to go see Matt Matthews.
Kim in Minneapolis, congratulations.
Congratulations, Kim. Here's the good deal. We got another pair to give away today. I got 2 pairs to give away tomorrow, so just listen for your chance to win later today and tomorrow. You can go see Matt Matthews, once again, State Theater, coming in January. Tickets go on sale tomorrow at Live Nation. You can go check that out. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I want to thank Karla Bigham for joining us. I think if the Democrats take it seriously, and that means getting out into every freaking district in the state, even the real red ones, where they might get mad at you, and pushing your message in their territory, they don't have the money to have to defend themselves everywhere in the state. That means they need the DFL to basically ignore districts for them to be competitive. And if we don't do that, DFL, if you're listening to me, for God's sakes, get out there and even in the +5, +6 Republican districts, get people knocking on doors, get people donating, get people campaigning. Because if they've got to go spend money in those districts to stop the DFL from coming in and possibly stealing a seat, that's less money going to these other seats. We've learned that the last 3 election cycles. We cannot forget that now. And we can't just sit there and say, well, it's going to be Tim Walz is on the top of the ticket and Amy Klobuchar is there. We can feel smug. No, that's how surprises happen, like the Republicans winning the Minnesota House. That's how surprises happen. A few quick notes about my new good BFF, Royce White, who, once again, if you didn't hear the 3 o'clock hour, he got in touch with me. He called me a commie. A commie, you say? Wow. Well, I'm a commie here. Thank you, McCarthy. A commie. That's just, come on, man. You know, what are you doing? Now, I want to make sure I'm very clear here. I'm not running for office. I'm just a radio host here. If Royce White wants to, really start going after me, please don't do that, sir. Oh, no. I'd sure hate for you to embarrass yourself even further in this state. Not that. I want him. So, please, more, sir. You got to do better than that. You got to get better insults, Royce. Better. Come on. Reminder, you're the Republican Senate candidate, which, I gotta give you some harsh facts, though. Okay. First of all, the last time I checked, didn't you have like $200K in the bank to Amy Klobuchar, $6.5 million in the bank? Because that's a lot of money. That's a massive money disadvantage. That's like, oh no, I'm sinking. I don't know if you've noticed that, but that doesn't bode well for you. You know what else doesn't bode well? The amount of people that voted for you on Tuesday. Because as much as you want to say this is a movement, the only kind of movement you have going on right now is the kind that happens in the bathroom. 2022, Minnesota had an estimating voting age population of 4,140,218 people. Royce White on Tuesday got a total of, now once again, I want to repeat. The number of voting age people in Minnesota as of 2022 was 4,100,000 plus. He got, on Tuesday, 74,656 votes. 74,000. That is 1.8% of the potential voting population. Yeah, that's not a resounding endorsement, dude. You only got, and once again, I want to repeat this. Why do I say that there is an outside chance that Amy Klobuchar could pants this clown at a 75-25 result? It's that. They had competitive races. I mean, you had a race up in 7 that was competitive. You had a weirdly competitive race down in 2. You had a race up in 8. You had races that were competitive, Republicans, and all you could muster for Royce White was 1.8% of the voting population of the state. That's really bad. I mean, that's like really, really bad, like embarrassingly bad, like Royce White NBA statistics bad. I mean, it is horrific. Trolling. That is some bad numbers, man. And that's by a Firebee Unicorn. By the way, love you, dear. You are fantastic. 1.8% of the voting population voted for the. Feel the enthusiasm. But I know what you're saying to me now is, Matt, how dare you? There's tons of enthusiasm about Royce White. Is there? Well, with the Republicans, there are. Oh, is there? Okay. I'm going to point out something that I have noticed. If you go to, and this is funny. This is actually funny. It's sad, but it's funny sad. If you go to the Republican Party of Minnesota Twitter page or their Facebook page, it is 2 days since the primary. And neither one of their social media pages, the Facebook page or the Twitter page, has anything about Royce White winning the primary. Their Senate candidate, the top statewide office, their candidate, the top of the ticket in the state of Minnesota, they haven't even acknowledged he's the winner yet. It's not like they haven't acknowledged other people winning. They indeed have. The two-headed horse down in 2, whatever one won that one, the Michelle Fischbach, they credited her. But nothing. 2 days. Primary, it wasn't like it was in debate. Royce White's your candidate. And the Republican Party of Minnesota seems to be deeply embarrassed that he is the Senate candidate. Because if you go, I'm right now, I'm on the Twitter machine. Once again, hi, I'm Soy Boy. You guys got to get better at your insults. Their last tweet here is on August 14th, yesterday, to Ron Kresha and Greg Davids on their primary wins last night. Jimmy Gordon, 26A, Wayne Johnson in 41A. So they're congratulating people here, but they're not congratulating Royce White. Now, Royce, I've got to imagine this is hard to hear, man. I mean, this is your own party seeming to be terrified terrified of associating themselves with you. How dare they? Have you called them commies yet today? Royce? Have you laid the soy boy out at them yet? Come on. I'm starting to think they might be a little embarrassed that you're the Senate candidate. But I'll let you figure that out because, once again, that's not my lie. That's their social media pages as of right now. Royce White fever. Well, actually, that's you don't catch that. I don't know if you can survive. I mean, yes, no, more commie stuff. Come on, man, come back at me. This is gonna be great. The next 2 months are going to be awesome, man. Oh God, it makes me feel good inside, people. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. The Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
Baby, it's hard inside. You're running across my mind. I was twisted, I was over it. Saying I'd never
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. How about this, Patrick? Let's give away that second pair of tickets to go see Matt Matthews over at the State Theater in January. Should we do that? Let's do that. All righty. Caller number 5. Caller number 5, you get these are their second pair of tickets today. It's the Bougie on a Budget Tour. The tickets don't even go on sale till tomorrow. Live Nation, you can find them there. Matt Matthews at the State Theater coming up here in January. Caller number 5, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Caller number 5, you'll win those tickets. In good luck on that. I want to bring up a story here because there's been an update on the lawsuit with the Fleet Farm in regards to the straw purchasers, because the straw purchasing has been a problem. Let's be honest about it. We know how a lot of these guns are getting out there on the streets. We know how this is happening. That, it's this mentality that, there's the Republican narrative that it's street gangs, like jumping a truck of guns like it's a 1920s radio serial. And they're getting the guns. We got to get them, and we got to distribute them on the streets. No. Most of these guns are purchased at regular firearm stores, and they're purchased there, and then suddenly it's purchased in, say, Fargo, and suddenly that gun is being used in a crime in Minneapolis. And so they go back and say, well, what happened to the gun? And the guy looks and says, well, I don't know. That gun got stolen. And there really is no consequence for that. And I think it's pretty clear, when you see the same guy in the same store buying gun after gun after gun, that's what's happening. Is that guy's? It's not stolen. I mean, there isn't. I mean, maybe one or two of them, sure, but the vast majority, it's a way for them to make some money. I know a friend that can basically, I probably can sell this to someone down in the cities and off the records and off the books, and then all of a sudden, the gun gets used in the crime. All you have to do is say, it was stolen from my car. I have no idea what happened to that gun. Now, this is why one of the things I want to see get passed in the state is a mandatory requirement that if a gun is stolen, that the person has to report that within 2 weeks to their local law enforcement. I think that is a minimal thing that we should do, because first of all, shouldn't the police know when someone has a gun that's been stolen? I mean, they're deadly, they're dangerous. It is something that is, we should know exactly where all those guns are. And, this whole notion of, it's the 9th gun I've had that somehow got stolen out of my truck. I better start learning how to lock those doors. They play us as stupid because the system allows them to play us as stupid. And I think you need to clamp down on that. Because, I mean, they're not freaking toys. They're guns. And this is not stopping anyone from having one. This doesn't stop you from buying one. It doesn't stop you from, if you want to do carry and conceal like it is. What it does is say you have a responsibility if a gun you have is stolen to report it. Not this after-the-fact crap. Oh, what do you mean that was used in a shootout in the cities? That gun was stolen from my truck 3 years ago. I think it's a bare minimum rule. Like I said, we know where these guns are coming from. In Chicago, people in Indiana buy them, run them up into the city. It's not some heist on the highway. We got a semi full of guns. No, it's not that. They're guns that are sold in regular gun stores. And suddenly, all of a sudden, I mean, the way that they're talking, you would think to yourself, my God, there must be an epidemic of gun theft in rural America. And maybe we should clamp down on that. But the reality is I don't think a lot of it is theft. Some of it, sure. A lot of it isn't. It's a way for people to make a few bucks off the side. And if you get caught with this, you don't know me. A Fleet Farm store manager reported asking whether the retailer should cut off a handgun sales to a man whose 2021 straw buying spree included a gun fired in the St. Paul mass shooting months later, according to new filings for the state lawsuit against the company. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison sued Fleet Farm in 2022, accusing it of negligence for not doing enough to stop straw buyers at its Minnesota stores. As discovery in the litigation neared at the end of this month, Ellison's office flagged a new disclosure that a Blaine store manager at the time questioned the sale of handguns to Jerome Horton. Horton purchased 24 firearms from various Fleet Farm stores during a 4-month period in 2021. Yeah, that doesn't seem weird at all. A Mossberg MC2C 9mm pistol Horton bought on July 31st in Blaine of 2021 in Blaine eventually reached the hands of Devondre Travon Phillips, who had a prior felony conviction and made him ineligible to possess a firearm. Phillips used the gun in a shootout inside the 7th Street Park Bar in St. Paul in October 21. One woman was killed. 14 others were injured by gunfire that night, just before an August 2 deadline for discovery in Minnesota's lawsuit against Fleet Farm. The company turned over a Blaine store incident report with a narrative from the store manager related to Horton's July 31st, 2021 transaction. The detailed incident report demonstrates that Fleet Farm knew or should have known that Horton was a straw buyer by at least July 31st, 2021, halfway through Horton's straw buying spree, and failed to take action to prevent future purchases by Horton, wrote Assistant Attorney General Catherine Morkey in a recent motion asking the judge to order more discovery from Fleet Farm. Horton and Sarah Elwood were named in the lawsuits as two people since convicted of federal felonies related to buying dozens of firearms at Fleet Farm stores that quickly transferred to people prohibited from possessing guns. Gee willikers, I don't know where those 24 guns were. I just left them on the front seat of my car. Scum. I'm sorry. I am tired of this epidemic of gun violence. These people are scum, and the people that enabled this to happen are freaking scum. Oh, Matt, the gun didn't kill anyone. No, fine. You want to say that, but the gun got in the person's hands somehow, didn't it? And the right wing in this country, the gun kooks of this country, have this narrative that it was just an innocent gun in the car and that big black guy came and stole it. That's your narrative. That's what you guys run with. The reality is that doesn't happen. It's them freely taking them and selling them into the inner city to people that should not have these guns off the record. And then they're used to gun people down. For God's sakes, if you are a responsible gun owner, you yourself should want to see an end to this facade of a joke. Someone walks into your stores and buys 24 guns, and you guys are like, maybe we need to give you a bulk discount. I mean, come on, man. This is sickening. We have an epidemic of gun violence in this country. An absolute epidemic. And until we take it seriously, and that means basically we know how a lot of the guns are getting there, yet we don't have people with the guts to stop it because they're afraid the gun owners might come out and be like this. Once again, you making mandatory rules to report a theft doesn't stop anyone from having a gun. You basically, it should have set, even for the most pro-Second Amendment person, it should set off flags like you wouldn't believe that over a 2 or 3 month period, people are going to various stores within a chain within an area to buy as many guns as possible. This has to stop. I mean, this has to stop. Andrew Davis, an attorney representing Fleet Farm, wrote in a memo this week during the arguing against Minnesota's request to expand discovery that the incident report was written by a former Blaine store operations manager in late February 2022 regarding his recollection of the July 31st transaction. Though the report is redacted, Davis described it as a summary of documents the manager reviewed as part of the sale, and that this belief that he e-scanned information with Fleet Farm's firearms specialist seeking input on whether any future sales to Horton should be stopped. The manager recalled that he never got a response back from the specialist. Of course not. Davis wrote, and the manager also wrote that the employee who sold the firearms to Horton did not have any reason to believe that this could be a straw purchase. You see, as everyone wants to play stupid. How are we supposed to know the guy that was buying 24 guns from us was doing straw purchases? How was I supposed to know that the gun that I sold on the street was going to be used to kill people? How was I supposed to know where my gun went? It's one or the other. Either we take these damn things seriously or we don't. I've got 3 Generation Z kids. I've talked about this before. All of them, their generation has had it with guns. They have. And I hope to live to see the day that enough of them get into Congress that are going to put in common sense gun regulations that do not violate the First or the Second Amendment in any capacity to basically end this epidemic of gun violence without the mentality of, well, everybody should have a gun on them at all times, safety off, finger on the trigger, round in the chamber, ready to shoot because that's the safest America we could possibly have. No, it's not. We know the guns are coming from stores. We know that the guns are basically a handful of individuals are buying them and they're selling them in the cities to people that they know that they're doing this specifically because, it's not a gun raffle at the local VFW or something like that. I got to tell you, I'm very glad Keith Ellison is going for this because there's a lot of people that don't have the guts to do something like this. But by doing this, and when you look at the number of firearms that were walking out of Fleet Farm to the same people, we have rules here on the station, and I'll get to the winner here in just a second. But we have rules here on the station that if you've just recently won, you can't win again soon. We don't just sit here and say, well, Bob from Minneapolis, and 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 Bob from Minneapolis. And when someone says to me, it's like, wow, that Bob from Minneapolis wins all the contests, we sit there and like, are they? Oh, I don't know. I don't hear names. And our new winner's Bob from Minneapolis. I mean, we have standards here with just the handful of giveaways we do that seem to be far more frickin' stringent than Fleet Farm has with the amount of guns that they sell. And those are guns. Those are freaking guns. We know how this is happening. We know exactly how it's happening. But, what do we get? Matt, you don't understand country life, Matt. Oh, I understand death. I was in the military, fired weapons for the U.S. Army. I understand what those things can do. I understand that, we do have a Second Amendment here. I have talked many times. I have no problem with hunting weapons, actual hunting weapons. I have no problems if you'd want to carry a personal firearm. I wouldn't do so, but that's up to you. But it's these weapons that when someone sat down with a piece of paper and a pencil to design them, they were designed with one purpose: to kill as many human beings as fast and as quickly as possible. And the common sense that we have to turn off to say, let's flood the streets of those, is inexcusable. Absolutely. Patrick, speaking of winners and our standards here, who is the winner of those second pair of tickets to Matt Matthews?
Congratulations to Brian in Minneapolis. You're going to see Matt Matthews.
I thought you said Bob in Minneapolis. I would have laughed and laughed.
That would have been pretty funny, wouldn't it?
Brian in Minneapolis. Brian, congratulations. Matt Matthews tickets, once again, they go on sale tomorrow. Don't worry, I got 2 more pairs to give away tomorrow. Listen for your chance to win. If you want to get tickets on your own, Live Nation has them for sale starting tomorrow morning. And then, once again, the concert, the Bougie Got a Budget Tour, that is at the State Theater in January. So some good warm laughs in the cold time of the year. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Let's take a break. Come on back. One more segment before we're out of here. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Shout out to Racket, who has a very interesting article here about what climate change is going to look like here in Minnesota. Now, one of the things, like I said, when I was out in California, one of the things that was crazy, man, was that in the San Joaquin Valley, the 107, 108, 109 every single day. Now, we're not talking about the Mojave Desert. We're talking about areas that generally are in the 90s. I mean, it's still pretty warm, but not 10, 15 degrees over every day. It was brutal. Minnesota isn't known for its hot weather. Nonetheless, we're deep in the dog days, and stepping outside sometimes feels like a sauna. This morning was humid. God, you notice that? Ugh. Yeah. While other areas have it much worse, hot weather here can still be dangerous. According to the National Weather Service, 19 Minnesotans have died from heat and humidity since 1990, which makes extreme heat Minnesota's third deadliest weather phenomenon in that period after tornadoes and flooding. FEMA defines extreme heat as 2 or more days where the temperatures are above 90 degrees. Safety guidance is generally based on the heat index, a combination of heat and humidity that's designated to measure what the actually feels like outside. For example, around 5 p.m. on August 2nd, 2024, the temperature in Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport was 90 degrees. The humidity was at 45, so the heat index was 93. At that level, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration advises extreme caution. The second lowest of 4 levels at risk, pointing that if you're outside for a long period of time, physically active, you could suffer from stroke, cramps, or exhaustion. By the way, and once again, speaking of California, you see another person died out in Death Valley, just being in Death Valley. Ugh. In Minnesota, we should be more worried about chronic heat than one day with remarkably high temperatures, though. So that's how it's going to manifest itself here. It's not going to be days where we're spiking out at 104, 105. It's going to be just consistent warmth that we've not yet generally had. The number of days above 95 degrees is actually not going up. In many places, it's going down, says Road Temps Midwest. So it's important to distinguish between chronic heating and those bursts at the most extreme heat. While our hottest days are not going to be as dramatic as Phoenix, heat can still be a threat to the Twin Cities, and impacts are not distributed equally. People who are younger, under 5, pregnant, older populations have a harder time regulating their body temperatures, and meteorologists with the Minnesota Department of Health. But then there are also people who are more at risk because of their outside weather. With outdoor workers, we found that males, especially 15 to 34, have higher rates of heat-related emergency visits. Once again, when it was 105, 106 outside the car, I was watching people work on the roads out there. God. Your job isn't your only social factor that can affect the risk of heat-related illnesses. There's also the design of our cities, referred to as urban heat islands. Human-built structures like roads and buildings absorb and then emit heat in ways that are less likely to happen near areas with trees and bodies of water. If you spend time traveling around Minneapolis, you'll notice that certain cooler neighborhoods, usually wealthier ones, have more greenery. I noticed in Vegas, dear gosh, you walk down the streets and it just feels like you're an egg on a griddle in Vegas. What ended up happening in Minneapolis is the surrounding area and those disinvested areas attracted a lot of development that was very land hungry. You could see huge freeways that could be developed from the 1950s and onward. I'm thinking about places like, for example, like Cedar Riverside. Other examples of land-hungry developments are big box stores, parking lots, and many apartment buildings. You start seeing the complexes of asphalt and concrete showing up. These are hard landscapes, and then they amplify temperatures when they get hot. Another way to alleviate the effects of high temperatures is to construct buildings in ways that accommodate more greenery. Having reflective roofing or white roofs is one of the things that have been implemented to mitigate urban heat islands. Another one is green roofs. I've seen that. Well, first of all, Target Center. Target Center. When I was doing open doors and was up in the IDS building, you can see down. They got a lovely greenery on top of Target Center over there, and there are other buildings downtown that have that as well. It creates a lovely spot on the roof, and it dissipates the heat. We have in our neighborhood. One of our neighbors lost one of their big trees, and they're planting ivy on their house. And I've always said, "Oh, isn't that a bad thing?" But what she said is, no. What happens is the ivy can cool a house down up to 10 degrees. I didn't realize that just letting a house, put that pretty ivy on it, that actually can help out. So, something to think about. You ever flown out of Terminal 2 at MSP? There's pretty spectacular green roof there as well. Apartment projects should also consider cooling their roofs for room for vegetation instead of doing as currently done now with multifamily residential, where you have often create a horseshoe design to slap a big asphalt parking lot in the middle. What if you were to do a little more on the European design, which is essentially green space in the center and the perimeter of the city block that has development? It's not a bad idea. As a matter of fact, a lot of older cities, older blocks in older cities, they have that. It's absolutely freaking adorable. New Orleans, if you go down there, you go and they'll have buildings on the outside and a green space in the middle, which, they're freaking intoxicating. Those are very cool places. So some good ideas there. But once again, what we have to anticipate is that Minneapolis, St. Paul might not see the heat spikes, but what we're going to see is just a general roasting. And frankly, I'm not good with butter and garlic. Okay, let's just be honest about it. Little things we can do. Native Roots Radio is coming up. Have a good one. We are back on a Friday. Till then, see ya.